Brace yourself.
After the evolving rhythm gameplay video I made a couple of years ago, I didn't expect a rhythm game to really do anything that unexpected. You'd think after looking at so many rhythm games and isolating the genre's gameplay identity down to its simplest parts that every rhythm game released after that would just be another brick in the wall to me. But then comes Floor Kids, a game that, for me anyway, demanded a more in-depth look. And yeah, Floor Kids earned it. It's different. Very different. In fact, it's one of the most original rhythm games I've played in years. Floor Kids' breakdancing spin on rhythm games doesn't look that unusual at first glance. Your goal is to perform various breakdancing techniques in time with a metronome, combine individual moves into longer chains, and ultimately gather enough support to show the world your skills. The sketchy graphic design is awesome, the premise is oddly endearing, and the beats are helmed by none other than Kid Koala of Deltron 3030 and Gorillaz fame. That's all well and good, you might be saying, but why are you hyping this Floor Kids game up so much? What's so special about it? Well, as I said, after finishing that big video on rhythm gameplay, I thought I'd remain a bit jaded toward the genre. I mean, I still adore rhythm games, but in an assured way. I always knew what I was getting in a rhythm game, for better or worse. But Floor Kids does something that, truth be told, is a design direction I haven't seen in a rhythm game in such a long time. Something that really challenges the immediate preconceptions of the genre. It gives the player the opportunity to be creative and go beyond the bare minimum to succeed. And that's a real rarity in rhythm game design as a whole. Let me explain. When looking at any rhythm game, there's a level of restriction to how the player interacts with the beats. Rhythm games are generally propulsive, that's been clear, as the beat always pushes the player at a specific pace. The player is normally required to initiate a command at a particular time, with success and failure normally being determined by the player's timing. Look at a game like Project Diva, where the player must press a button at a particular moment. It's very rigid and doesn't give the player any alternative opportunity while still being considered successful. The game governs success and failure in a very binary way. You either correctly pressed it at the right time, or you didn't. You can't color outside the lines, so to speak. There aren't many other rhythm games that give the player a level of creativity, the ability to proceed throughout the rhythm gameplay successfully, while still having independence in how they input the commands. Amplitude did this, as did its spiritual successor Rock Band Blitz, but outside of moving from track to track, many of the commands remain simple button presses. You can change your pathway throughout the song, but that was really the extent of your variety. You're still bound by simple but ultimately restricted progression throughout a song. Floor Kids takes this underutilized idea and capitalizes on it, integrating it into the core gameplay. This is a game that doesn't just allow creativity in how you input the commands, but encourages it. Its entire scoring system is based around inputting varied commands based on the character's stats, the song that's playing, and even more extraneous elements like the kinds of moves the crowd demands. You can earn points in so many different ways, and most aren't dependent on the success-failure vibe like other rhythm games have. You can perform a spinning power move to earn points, as you can by simply performing a top rock or down rock move in time with the beat. There isn't one single way to get ahead in each of Floor Kids' songs. You need to be creative to succeed. But rhythm gameplay's fundamental element, inputting actions at the proper moment governed by a rhythm, is not erased in Floor Kids. The metronomic beat is always still there, but just far enough into the background where the player is given a level of independence as they play. Floor Kids encourages staying within that beat, as shown with the funk category. But it acts more as rhythmic bookends than an ever-present metric that must be abided by at all times. Performing a more complex power move or sticking a freeze just right doesn't necessarily have to follow the metronome. You can improvise. You can color outside the lines. And Floor Kids' scoring system really wants you to mix things up, as shown by the flyness component. Flyness is a very special part of the game because it's almost entirely based around how the player wants to move. You can earn flyness points in unorthodox ways, like striking a pose during a sequence, hopping while in a freeze, turning a top rock or down rock cycle in the opposite direction, and many, many other ways. Flyness is the game's method of incentivizing coloring outside the lines by initiating moves that don't determine success or failure, but still demonstrate player skill. It's those extra credit moments where the player can go above and beyond and show their skills outside of the bare minimum the game asks of them. I've seen many reviews compare Floorkid's gameplay setup to the combo system in the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series. I think that's a valid comparison, but I honestly saw Floorkid's gameplay to compare more to character action games like Devil May Cry, games that incentivize proficient play with their style system. In Devil May Cry, simply defeating an enemy is what the game asks of you, but it's the minimum to a passing grade. What the game wants you to do is to use varied moves, dodge missteps, and overall show that you're willing to go beyond the minimum requirements to succeed. Floorkids does the same thing, but for rhythm games. It even has a ranking system like Devil May Cry does, but getting that 5-star rating is no easy feat. You have to go the extra mile to earn that perfect rating. You have to perform varied techniques, abide by the crowd's requests, and most interestingly, expand your performance with flyness moves to construct an overall better show. Ultimately, Floorkids adds dimension to the rhythm game genre in a unique way, by giving the player freedom in how they initiate commands and progress through each song. Earning success isn't limited to a select group of actions, as in many other rhythm games. Floorkids instead uses the rhythm game fundamentals in a more skeletal way, giving the gameplay structure but letting the player fill in the gaps with the motions of their choosing. It's shockingly freeform, and it admittedly took me some time to really get a handle on flyness moves, but I soon realized that I was playing the game my way, something I couldn't really say with any other similar game. As someone who loves rhythm games, old and new, I gotta say that Floorkids was the first time I really had to think outside the box with this genre. The fundamentals were easy to understand, but going that extra mile and learning the flyness moves took practice, and with that practice I ultimately attained that coveted 5-star ranking. There's an almost unsettling amount of creativity in Floorkids game design. I didn't expect a humble indie project to shake things up this much, but lo and behold, Floorkids does just that. It's a fascinating rhythm game through and through, challenging the player to take that big step from following the leader to leading the charge themselves.